Welcome back to the Reputation Revolution. My name is Trevor Young. This is season 8 of the podcast. So we've been going a little while and it's been re-energized and relaunched. And instead of being just the professional personal branding show, we're really tightening our focus and being focusing on the personal brand monetization show. So it's all about the business of personal branding and commercializing the profile and the reputation you build in the marketplace, which was a topic we kind of touched on over the 270 plus episodes previously, but we're going to just focus on that now. And with me in the virtual studio, I have Jackie Goddard from Power to Speak. G'day, Jackie.
Good day. Lovely to be all the way over there in Australia, but virtually, obviously.
Where are you coming to us from?
I am on the south coast of the UK. So yeah, lovely part of the world, I think.
Excellent. And I'm going to ask you a question now. What were you doing 10 years ago, just to get into this, the chat we're going to have, just so a bit of context?
Oh, well, that would have been 2013. 2013. I was an arts development officer. So I was working.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I was working. My daughter was very small, so I was working part-time in an arts centre, and I used to run all of their arts projects and organise the programme and curate the exhibitions. It was a very creative job. I loved it. And on the side, I was also teaching their youth theatre. So I was running drama classes as well. So all sort of quite local to me in the arts centre. So in the arts world, it was lovely.
Now, we're going to get into your evolution about and how you've been building a personal brand for a long time, I guess. But you know, I've known you for a few years now. You're part of the You Are the Media community, as you say, based on the south coast of England. And so I want to get into how you've approached that, how you now, you know, you're raising your profile, your reputation, how you go about, I guess, monetizing that, building a business, a personal brand based business, global, I suppose. We're all global now. And so, but just to get into that, your background a little bit more expansively. You're can I say an actor by profession? I know you've been in stage and behind the scenes, and you've got an amalgam of skills.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I actually started life after school as a fashion designer. So I went to fashion school, fashion college, but really I always wanted to be an actor. So at the age of 28, I think, I finally, having worked at the Royal Shakespeare Company behind the scenes as a dresser for a few years, thought, no, this is absolutely what I can do. I think it was lack of confidence during my teenage years that steered me, and the advice of a careers officer steered me across and away from acting. But I kind of came back to it in my late 20s, trained, went off and did the Fringe and did all of that kind of acting stuff back then. But really, I suppose what I should have been was a director. And so when I got into teaching, really to subsidise the acting, I found that actually that was that was right up my street, because I was able to direct. So I did lots of youth theatre and that kind of thing. And then through teaching adults, I became more of a coach, really. So I was teaching them acting, but actually found that a lot of what I was doing was coaching them and supporting them to become more confident, really. So that's kind of where Power to Speak came from. But yeah, acting background.
Right. So tell us about Power to Speak. How long have you been doing it? What does it do? What do you do with the business? How long have you been doing it for?
Power to Speak has been going only since 2021. So it is a product of lockdown, because when lockdown happened over here in 2020, as it did across the world, I was teaching, basically. So I was in running workshops with adults and running youth theatres. I was working with a theatre company in Winchester over here that had a cast of adults with learning disabilities, and we were going into schools and running workshops. So when lockdown hit, everything stopped for me. I couldn't get into a room with people. I couldn't do the improvisation classes. Everything that I was doing had to stop. And so I carried on. I did some classes online, which when you think, acting really is slightly difficult, and doing improvisation online is quite difficult to do, but I did it and it was enjoyable. But I was in lots of networking spaces, really for my own mental health and well-being. Was, You Are the Media being a big part of that, to be, and you were there too, Trevor. We were on screen, I think every couple of weeks during lockdown, and talking to people in other networks as well that I belong to, talking to business people about this kind of new world of being online and having to show up on a on a screen in front of a camera. People were scared. People were frightened. It was, how am I going to do this? How do I find that within me that I'm going to have to start selling myself? And I have to admit to starting my own business, not knowing what content marketing was, but actually learning very quickly during lockdown and talking to other business people, and certainly being part of the You Are the Media, that we are all our own marketers, so whatever it is that we do, be that in our life, let alone our work, we are kind of promoting ourselves and putting ourselves forward. And so Power to Speak really came out of me realizing that as a coach and a trainer that I'd been doing, as a teacher, as I had been for years and years and years, I could really benefit people in business for just showing up and getting excited about talking to their audience. Because I knew as an actor, when I was confident and well rehearsed in what I was doing, I knew how excited I was to show other people. And that's kind of where the idea for Power to Speak came from, is getting people excited about getting onto a stage.
As you say, the stage today is Zoom as well. And was that kind of the impetus there because people were struggling with Zoom? I guess there's a couple of things. One is, what were your potential clients, their pain points and the struggles that you could see that, I could maybe build a business out of this. But on the other side, was it something you had to do because was your job still there, or you were doing this as a sideline, or you had to throw everything in and start again? What was the basis of all that?
Well, interestingly, I mean, I know the pandemic was awful for a lot of people, but for me it was almost a gift in a way to have that amount of time where I couldn't do what I'd been doing for all of those years. The treadmill of just trying to earn a living and doing what I enjoyed doing, but, paying the bills. And actually what I knew from lockdown, from being at home and being in these networking spaces, was that I didn't want to go back to that. So I didn't want to go back to doing what I was doing. So therefore things needed to change. And it was, I did a coaching course in the November through to January of 2020 to 2021. I did a coaching course online with like 600 other people who knew that could work. But actually, I ended up in a break. I know. Ended up in a breakout room with two women, both in the States, I think they were from. Maybe one was in the Philippines. And at the breakout room, we had to explain to the other people what it was that we did, to see if we could explain, if people could understand from the way we saw our businesses, if they could understand what it was that we did. So I explained what I did to these two women and said, okay, what is it you think I do? And one woman said, you help people market themselves effectively. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'd never really considered that. And the other woman said, you help people show up powerfully in the world. And I thought, oh, I like that. That sounds good. That sounds like I'm actually doing a service, And that's how the name Power to Speak came. It came about because of that conversation in that breakout room. And I thought, well, if that's what I can do, that really gave me the impetus to kind of think, well, this is powerful stuff. This is stuff that is not just about getting people in front of an audience, but just getting them in front of a client or a potential customer. Even one-to-one, people need that confidence. And I know from all the experience that I've had, from the acting training that I've had, from life experience, that actually I have those tools and techniques that can help people. So that's kind of how it started.
A couple of things to unpack there, Jackie. Number one is that being able to articulate what you do is an issue for most people who are, let's face it, if you're going to build a business around your personal brand, it's going to be kind of expertise-based or service-based business, but, based around your expertise, your knowledge, your ideas, your wisdom, that side of things. So being able to articulate that is, and we'll be covering that quite a bit on the show, but that's an issue people find. I definitely know that. And I guess the other part of it that I really liked is that you had the experience, as you said, the experience, the tools, the wherewithal, the skills, but you probably didn't really know it at the time. And how many of us do you think fall into that? Like we've got a lot more skill and a lot more value to bring to the table than we actually think we do. Do you think is that a bit of imposter syndrome, or just we take it for granted?
Yes and yes. It is. I think the majority of us suffer with imposter syndrome, imposter thinking. It's something that we can't escape from, really, because we always think there's somebody better than us. And of course there is. You're not always going to be the cleverest person in the room, and you don't want to be, because we have to carry on learning. We have to, there's every day is a school day. But we all have that feeling that, we could be better. And I know from working with one-to-one, especially with people, a lot of what I do is not about the physicality of the voice, which is where I started as an acting trainer, as an acting coach. It's not about the physicality. It's about what comes with the acting training as well. It's that motivation and that intention, and what is the backstory. And actually, when you dig deep into people's stories, you find that people don't value their own stories. A lot of what people have been through in their own life journey, let alone what they've been through at work, is really, really quite valuable. And they don't appreciate that, because they think, nobody wants to know that. Nobody's interested in that, And actually, when you take ownership of your story, and an ownership of who you are and the experiences that you've been through, and realise that actually if you take ownership of those, they ground you as a person, but also when you're passing on your knowledge to other people, if you share those stories, they can validate other people. And I think Oprah Winfrey said that anybody wants is to be validated. And so if there's something in all of us that can validate somebody else, and I think that's quite powerful. And lots of people don't appreciate that they've actually got those experiences, and that they've been through stuff that can actually help other people. Whether that's to do, there might be a graphic designer, there might be an accountant, it could be anything. But there's something within everybody, there's part of their story that if they actually take ownership of, it grounds them as a person, but also it makes them more empathic and more supportive of other people.
So what I want to dig into a little bit here is, your journey on how you've, I guess, built your business, and part of that is positioning, marketing, and then the commercial side, and bringing out, the types of services and how you've rolled those out. And as we've spoken about, it's an ongoing process. But walk me through the positioning side first, because that's where a lot of people struggle with. And obviously, you did that coaching course, and that you had a bit of feedback. How long did it take you once you said, okay, I'm going to start a business? Did you come up with the name for it and then work out what you're going to do, or did you want to position yourself, or was it just a bit of a trying to do everything at once? How did you once you made that decision, what was it like from that point on?
Well, I actually left the art centre. I think I've just had a work anniversary, as people from LinkedIn keep congratulating me on my work anniversary this week. But that was me just leaving and starting a business. And originally the business was called Atticus Arts. And it was about me being an arts project manager, which is what I'd been doing at the art centre. But nobody wanted me for that, it turned out. And I found that people were coming to me more for the acting training, really, is what they knew me for, it's what they wanted me for. And so I kind of almost from that moment had to start repositioning. And I found with Atticus Arts going into networking spaces, which everybody said to me, when you start a business, you need to start networking. But nobody really understood, because I didn't understand, I think. Because I didn't understand what it was that I was doing with Atticus Arts, nobody else did. And I think that is the problem with articulating what it is that you do. And if you can't articulate what you can do, nobody else is going to understand it. And so I had trouble.
Expect others to pick up on it.
Yeah, with it. So I did have trouble marketing that as a business, and quite, as I say, as soon as I got into lockdown happened, I realised that actually I didn't want to go back to that. That wasn't going to be the business, and once I decided on Power to Speak, and once I'd taken ownership of all of that. Do you know what I did actually? And I'm not sure if I spoke about this to you before, is that I asked people what they thought of me, which is which was a big part of my marketing actually. And so I think I went to, and not very many, I think I asked about 12 people. So I think I did say 4 friends, 4 former clients, 4 networking buddies, what it was that they thought I did as a job, what they thought I did well as a person, what they thought my superpower was, and what I could improve. And I just put those questions out there and waited waited for the feedback, not knowing what was going to come back. And actually what came back was a lot kinder than I expected. Not that I expected people to be nasty, but actually it made me realise what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were. So I think that was a really, really good starting point. So I could then kind of go, okay, well, now I know what it is that people value in me. And so that was a really good starting point for building a brand. So I'd got the name, I'd got the logo and started on the website and did all that. But once I'd taken ownership again of what it was that people thought I did and who I was and what my strengths were, that was a really good starting point to be able to give me the confidence to go out and start selling what it was that I did.
Did you ever think about putting yourself out as Jackie Goddard versus Power to Speak? Did you wrestle with that at all?
Yes. Yes, I can't remember. I think what was the definitive that made me go for the branded name rather than my own? I think it was the fact that I was speaking in networking spaces, again, speaking to business coaches who were kind of just saying, well, if you go for your own name, then people will always expect it to be you. And as a business, I wanted it to grow. I didn't want to. It reminded me, I suppose, of being a freelancer. It reminded me of being Jackie Goddard, drama tutor, or workshop facilitator, or whatever. And I wanted to grow a business. I am determined that this is a business that I will eventually employ other people that will come and work alongside me as coaches. I will train them to coach in a similar vein to me. And so it seemed better to have a business name and a name that meant something. So Power to Speak means exactly what it says on the tin, kind of thing. So that was the
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So Power to Speak has been going itself, and when you've made this sort of, okay, we're burning the boats and I'm doing this. How long has that been then? Like, is that going back? Is that nearly 2 years?
No, it's 2 and a bit years now. So
you've now evolved. You've got a new website recently. You've got a podcast. Why don't you walk us through the things that you've done to raise your profile, and then we'll get into sort of the business side. Because I guess networking. You've already mentioned you do a lot of networks and stuff like that. That's you're a participator in that regard. And I always think, whether it's online networking or face-to-face, I mean, face-to-face is wonderful. They're mainstays of any business. But what are some of the other things you've done over and above that?
Well, certainly the podcast came first. The podcast came during lockdown as Atticus Arts Creative Conversations, and it came out of a part. It wasn't really even a thought of marketing Atticus Arts as a business. It was really for me to get people to understand that being creative wasn't something that business people should shy away from. It was something that we should embrace because we all are creative. And so the Atticus Arts Creative Conversations started in 2020 from talking to other people that started podcasts. And at that point, there were lots of people doing podcasts, but they weren't not to the extent they are today, and not to the as a marketing ploy kind of thing. It was a way of sharing knowledge, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with it. So that was the first step, and then obviously when I changed the name, I rebranded, and although it will always be about creativity. Power to Speak Now is a live show on a Tuesday that speaks to other speakers and speaker coaches. So it's a lot more niche, but actually, you've been on my podcast, and it's my feeling behind the podcast was really to find out how people get to where they are and what's their journey and what's that story. Because I think going back to the actor in me is, what is the backstory? What's the motivation? What is it that motivates people, which is what excites me, and I think is something that other people can learn from. So the podcast was the first thing, and people, I think, began to get to know me more for the podcast than they did actually for the coaching, which I'm not sure was really what I wanted, but it's been a great way of getting to know people as well and building my network. So that was the first thing, and then from that, just being able to use the podcast for other content marketing. So then, taking clips and doing sort of wise words clips. But again, that was more the brand of the podcast rather than me as a coach. I think really just keeping up with the social media, isn't it really? And just making sure that you're putting stuff out there, blogs, a newsletter. That was the other thing that started in lockdown again as Atticus Arts, was a newsletter. And even to this day, I don't have a huge mailing list, but the newsletter is something I put a lot of effort into because, I want to give value, and there's a little bit in there about what I've been up to, what I've been doing, but also there'll be a piece in there that's a tip or a technique. And then recently I've started, now that we're back in person, started a speaker club, which is great to get back in a space with people. I do some of the techniques around the drama techniques that are really good for just confidence building. And, there's a core of people there that are getting to know me and they are my brand ambassadors, so to speak. They'll big me up if I put a post out and that sort of stuff, which is great. What else is there?
So walk us through then the and I'll just backtrack there for a tick. So from starting a podcast and then going live, and then obviously that's on YouTube and a podcast and it's live as well. So which channels is that live on?
LinkedIn.
Right. Okay. So now you've got. Walk us through, I guess, the let's call them, given that's the personal brand monetisation show. Let's call them sources of revenue, pipelines of revenue. How did you start? You were just offering one-on-one coaching, but what are you doing? You're obviously still doing that, I guess. But what's your offering look like? What makes up your overall offering?
Well, it is the one-to-one coaching is kind of at the core, really, because that's where my heart lies, is working with people to really get them to a place where they are comfortable and confident, whether it's talking to a client or whether they're on a stage actually, talking to hundreds or thousands of people in an audience. That's what I love to do.
And is that one-on-one, just if I can break it down?
Yeah.
That's one-on-one. Is that, how much of that is local and how much is sort of Zoom, not necessarily local?
I suppose it's 50-50 really. I work quite a lot with people on Zoom. Maybe at the moment more on Zoom when I think about it. But I will try to get to see people one-to-one if I can, unless they're overseas. That's obviously more difficult. But if they're in the UK, then I'll do a certain amount on Zoom, and then if I can get to see them, arrange a meet-up. Then I've had people come down to me from the Midlands, or I've gone up to them. I worked with a company over here called Gymshark, and I went up to their headquarters in, I think, Wolverhampton, and went up there to work with them. So it's kind of a little bit of both. I'll speak to people first of all on Zoom, and I'll get an idea of what it is that they're looking for. And then we might do the initial kind of brainstorm. Because a lot of it, as I say, is not necessarily about the physicality of the voice or what it is that they're saying, but it's actually getting them to find those stories so that they can, we can. So the offering, I suppose, it kind of starts with, okay, you need to find out who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. So that's the kind of the first offering, is we can kind of get your story straight, is what I like to call it. So I will dig deep into what those stories are, why they're doing what they're doing, and what it is that they have to say and why their audience should care. Who are their audience? And then you move on to that next step of, okay, well, we'll put that together as a talk. So by the end of a program with me, you'll have a talk that is relevant to you, relevant to your audience, and you are excited to deliver. We'll look at the visuals, we'll look at all of that. And then, there's the next step of actually bringing it together as a performance and getting them on stage and getting them comfortable with actually speaking. And again, then all the physicalities of their breath, their voice, their projection, articulation, all of those things. So those one-to-one packages kind of start with a basic and go through to, getting you on a stage with a signature talk. So that you've got a talk that then, once they've done that, once they've actually got that talk together, they've got the basis. Once they're confident in who they are and where they've come from and what they have to offer, then that's all of their social media content. They've got, they can take blogs, they can be comfortable in a 10-minute presentation or an hour on a stage. So that's the one-to-one offering. And then obviously there are the team, which is what I'm looking at now. Is I've become an associate for a couple of sort of bigger corporates and working with their teams on presentations and getting them comfortable and confident.
Excellent. And so we're going back to the one-on-ones, is that sort of like a defined program, or is it customized to the person, or they buy one package and then another package and then they can, keep progressing?
It depends how far they want to go. It can start with a power hour. If they've got a talk coming up and they just want an hour's worth of feedback and somebody to listen, they can start there. They can do like a 4-week of sort of just getting to what it is that they need to, or they can go into a 3-month program where I'm working with them weekly and we come up with the signature talk that is them, that they can then move forward with. So it kind of
right. So that's kind of like 3 offerings.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got 3 offerings there. The one-on-one, the power hour, I like that, power to speak, the power hour. The next one was about a 4-week, getting them into something and getting a result out of it. And for those that want to, play a bigger game, it's more like a 3-month package with regular meetings and catch-ups. That's 3. You've got the corporate side. That sounds like that's a little bit newer. Would that be fair?
It is, yeah. I mean, I've worked with corporates before, but this is the first time that I've sort of working with teams really. Although, I suppose I have worked with Gymshark was sort of the leadership team, but I worked with them individually.
Yeah.
Relatively new.
And so you have the Speak Like a Speaker Club. Walk us through that. Is that kind of like a membership?
Well, it could become a membership. It's relatively new, and this came out of You Are the Media with John Jockham and Mark Masters, and all of the guys at You Are the Media knew what I did, and all of them wanted a taste of just getting themselves. They all have something to say. The guys there. They're all quite good at coming forward, but wanted some tips and techniques. So why not start a speaker club? So, and it was something something that I was running alongside the Signature Talk program, was and this is still something that's being worked out, is the 3-month program that is the Signature Talk. I was hoping to get a cohort together so that there would be a number of people that I could bring together on Zoom. And so even though they were going through individual coaching with me, I could bring them together as a group, that they could practice with each other, they could talk to each other, they could have that sort of support from a network.
Group.
And so that
group coaching.
Yeah. So then that kind of came together. Well, we could step into a room locally. Obviously, the You Are the Media guys are all relatively local to me. So, we just once a month get together. I do 20 minutes of me sort of talking and chatting and giving them a technique or an exercise to do. We do a bit of a warm-up, and then it's over to them to discuss what it is that they want to talk about, and then there's some time. Well, we do like an open mic, or I throw a question at them and they've got a minute, sort of a hot seat to sort of talk about off the cuff kind of thing, which is something people don't particularly like doing, but when you throw them into it, they do find it quite easy. And it's amazing how people do like to talk, as I do. And then the last half an hour really is if anybody has got something that they want to present, that they want to show to the group. We've had one guy did a comedy set that he was planning, so he did that for us to get feedback. Mark practiced one of his talks that he was doing. So there's an opportunity for people to get up and share what it is that they're doing, just for feedback and support from the group. So that's what that is, and that's a lovely space to be in.
Yeah, and I guess you're getting feedback all the time. I mean, the great thing with, when you're coaching one-on-one or even in small groups, is that you're learning all the time what people want and what their needs are and that sort of stuff, and it helps you therefore in your marketing, in your positioning, and what people want. So if you're ever going to create an online course or something, you're closer to the ground, as it were. As an aside, gosh, taking on comedy and stand-up comedy, could there be anything more difficult in the world?
Well, it's only the same as doing a talk, really. As long as you're confident in your material and confident in yourself, comfortable at doing it. It's almost like taking on another character. And I always thought, I could do stand-up comedy if somebody wrote it for me and I took on a character, did it as a character, the character of Jackie, and I could deliver a stand-up, I'm sure, but maybe.
So how are you finding things then? I mean, this is all evolution. So, and thank you for sharing. I mean, this is your story, and you've been going through, how you started, and like these types of programs, are you creating them because you see the need, or people are coming to you and saying, can you do this?
I think it's a kind of a combination of, and people will tell you not to do this, but it's a combination of what I think the market needs, which I know people go, no, that's not right, that's not the way to do it. But it's what I enjoy doing, and I know that actually the actors training that I had back in the day has been a really, really beneficial training to have for every aspect of my life. It's given me the confidence to be able to speak, to be able to be curious and creative and empathic, and all of those things. And so I really want to share that with people. So part of it is me really wanting to share what I love to do and showing the benefit to other people. But also, I can see there is a need, and I can see that actually people are afraid, whether it's to do with imposter syndrome, whether it's to do with something that happened way back when a teacher said this, or a school friend said that, or whatever, that people are frightened of doing this. And actually it's quite simple, and there's sort of it's a mindset, and there's tools and techniques that can actually make it more comfortable and actually quite enjoyable. And so I know that, and I just want to be able to pass that on.
So what's next? How is it all going? There's some things. Is everything working the way you want it, or you might think, I need to add more products in, or where to from now?
It's definitely coming together now. It's taken a while, as I say. It's like 2 and a bit years, I don't know, probably 2.5 nearly. And it's taken all this time for me to really build the trust, and and it's taken working with all you guys at You Are the Media, and the flag. What is it you say? The flag you put your flag in the ground.
Flag in the ground.
Flag in the ground. And I've done all of that work, and thankfully I found all you guys at You Are the Media, because I've been able to really take hold of that and run with it. But it's taken all of this time for it to really build momentum. And now I've built that trust, and people I'm being seen as somebody that people can trust, and that they would like to work with. So now it's beginning to happen. Now it's sort of getting to that point where that kind of the ball is beginning to roll. So it's taken it's you do have to be patient, but it's beginning to happen now.
Yeah. We sort of touched on this before, but you've got a lot of clients locally and within England. Are you getting many clients from overseas, from outside of England? Is that something you want to do?
Yeah, I'd like to. I did in not so much this year, but last year I was getting a few clients from the States. I've not done so much networking in the States recently, and networking is key. It's talking to people and building relationships. So if I want to be working with people in the States, then that's what I need to do. Is I need to start showing my face over there and beginning to build those relationships, because a lot of what you do when you're building a business, as you know, is building those relationships. And a lot of what I've done over the last 2.5 years more is networking and making sure that I am seen to be of value, and I'm quite happy for people to call me, and if you want to, to discuss what it is that you might want, if you've got any fears or anything that I can help you with, and I'm happy to talk to people or whatever. So it's just building those relationships. So yes, I'd like to get back to the States, and I'd like to go over to the States and work in person over there at some point.
Hitting Hollywood.
Yeah.
What if Hollywood beckoned? Would you drop everything if you got a part in a film or a big TV series?
Yes.
And you got discovered again in that way? Would you drop everything and do that?
Yes. No, would I?
Terrific.
I'd have to run it alongside what I was doing. Obviously, I don't know if I'm an actor anymore. I'd love acting, but if somebody gave me a juicy film to direct, I'd be quite happy to drop everything for that. Bizarrely, I am at the moment running acting courses for stunt performers, for stunt trainees. So I'm running, going back to the acting training. So working up at Pinewood Studios in West London, which has been brilliant. I've loved that. So yeah, that's something that's come up recently.
The famous Pinewood Studios, James Bond, if I recall.
Yes. Yeah.
And many other movies and shows.
Yeah.
And I guess, but isn't that the brilliant thing about building a one-person enterprise? In terms of, yes, it's requiring you, and down the track you might put on, train and almost license out maybe, or train coaches in your methodology. but at the moment you have, even if you did that, that would still free you. That would probably free you up even more.
Yeah.
But you've now got the choice of, well, I can pull back and take on a big project, and then the only problem is you need to ramp up again. But you have that flexibility. Is that have you found that that's been important versus coming from a job where you're required on set or in an office?
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely, and that's what I'm looking forward to, is getting onto more stages myself. I mean, that's another thing of sort of monetizing, is putting myself forward as a spokesperson for my business, is putting myself into sort of presentations.
Yeah.
I'm doing a presentation tomorrow to a network on Zoom. I've got another one coming up in September and another one in November. And it's just about getting myself out there, doing what I love to do, which is stepping on stages and talking to people about what I do and what I think is important. And yeah, if I can build that business and take on those people, then yeah, it will free me up to do more of that, because that's what I'd like to do. I mean, the other things that I'd like, it was on my to-do list this year, didn't quite get done, was to do the TED Talk, write the book, and do an online course. All of which are
Alrighty,
still there.
so the book, how far have you plotted the book? Have you planned the book?
It's on an A4 piece of Word document. It's all there, and this is the thing, isn't it? The 30 years of experience of kind of doing what I've been doing this last 30 years. It's all there in my head. It just needs to come out onto the pages, really. So yeah, it's not far away, but it's just having the time to do it.
Well, good luck with that. The TED Talk might be easy or hard, I'm not too sure, but you've got to be in the right place, right time, and always a great thing to be able to do. And of course, I don't think you're that far away, probably, from the online courses, given that you're refining your methodology as you deal with individuals, and then it's just a matter of getting in and doing it. So definitely, I reckon that's probably your next cab off the rank. And you, as you said, you're speaking in public. Are you wanting to do public? There's two lots of public speaking. One is about just to get your face out there and to network and to as an earned media opportunity, I guess, but the other part of it is as a paid speaker, an educator, and that sort of thing. Are you going to go down that path as well?
I'd like to. I would like to. I'd love to be, to get on stages. A lot of the presentations and the talks that I've done have been on Zoom, and next step is to get on the stage, and to be paid would be joyful. So that's certainly something to look forward to. Yeah.
Excellent. Jackie, it's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed watching, as I said, I've been on your podcast. You've been on this one previously where we talked about presentation and all the things that you teach people to find your story and to build the confidence to get out and tell that story and to get on the stage and wherever the stage may be these days. But thanks for coming on and really sharing your journey on, I guess, the business side of it and the evolution of that business. And I'm pretty sure that it looks like it's cranking along nicely. And who knows, next time we speak, you might have a number of coaches working for you and VAs around the world, and you're just swanning around on stages internationally.
Yes, I'll be doing my Australian tour. I'll pop in and see you on the Australian leg of my tour.
I'd expect that. That would be terrific. All right, Jackie, thanks very much.
Thank you for having me, Trevor. It's been an absolute pleasure.